Welcome to Waste Your Time Wisely podcast.
That was everybody. Welcome to Waste Your Time Wisely. My name is Tay. Ryan's missing in action because he got married. We are here with my friend Max, who has lived in Copenhagen for last almost a decade, right?
Almost a decade.
Yeah. So Max is here with us, and then he was telling me gold stuff about Japan and pottery, but I didn't record like a ding dong. So, Mr. Max, how are you?
I'm great. I mean, it's really jumping into winter, so like it's cold as fuck.
Good. All right. So obviously you speak English. So what do you speak now? You speak English, you speak Danish?
I am as American as it comes, so I am still only speaking English.
You don't do you know like the hellos and the
Yeah, of course. I mean, I think I understand like 50% of Danish. I think it's probably one of the hardest languages
yeah.
out there, like Mandarin. But also, everybody here is their English is beyond perfect.
Yeah. I love it
And
when
then since I've been,
I love it when Europeans say, "Oh, I don't know if I'm saying this correctly." I'm like, "No, you're saying it correctly.
yeah,
You're
I
perfect."
mean, their English is better than most of my American friends.
I agree.
But I mean, also, I've been working in kitchens for the last 10 years in Copenhagen, and it's
Yeah.
so international that we've spoken English everywhere. So I think if I was working in a Danish environment, it would be a little bit different. I think I would be forced to learn. Yeah.
Yeah. Little backtrack. So, obviously you work in the kitchen and you work with knives. Do you have all your fingers? They're all still there?
Yes, enough. Like all of my sort of like heroin-esque burns from New York
Yes.
are kind of fading away, so I look a bit more respectable these days.
That's good. You moved to Copenhagen in what, like
15.
2015. Gotcha. So, and then you stayed in Copenhagen. I remember I was following, I forgot which restaurant, but one of the restaurant I don't think you're there anymore. You were working at, they had this very nice goodbye for you on social media. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yes. Yeah. It was. I mean, that's where I spent my whole kitchen life in Copenhagen, and I that was the first time I had ever been put on their social media,
Yeah.
and it was for a goodbye, which is pretty funny. But that's not where I'm most comfortable anyway. So I think actually like it was pretty fitting as like oh yeah, this guy has been the head chef for the last 6 years. Also, it's his last day.
No,
So
it's good. It was a good picture.
yeah.
It was a nice dedication. Because
Yeah, it was a bit uncomfortable, but it was super nice.
hey, it could be worse, right?
Yeah.
So I wanted to kind of talk to you about while catching up. So I'm kind of hitting two birds with one stone here while catching up and getting answers. So once upon a time, you grew up in Southern California in the likes of
Mhm.
the Tayus of the world. And then we don't dox in this podcast. That's a rule my co-host made. But if it's positive, we could talk about people. So with the likes of, the Devin Riders and the Ross Potters of the world, right? So when you graduated from UC Irvine, like what was the thought process at graduation? And then how'd you transition into cooking and chefing and food?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I wanted to cook out of high school,
Mhm.
but both of my parents, one of them being Swiss and my mother being Korean, were like, "That's insane. You are gonna go straight to school." So I did that, and I think it was probably a very good idea to go to college. But I kind of had it in my mind the whole time that I was gonna cook afterwards. Didn't really know I was gonna go to New York, but the old adage is that if you can make it in New York, you can make it anywhere, and I
Yeah.
think that really was pretty strong in the kitchen world. So that's where I went. Also, this was like the time where I don't know if you remember, there was a book called, or there is a book called Kitchen Confidential by Anthony
Yeah.
Bourdain.
Big fan. Big fan of
And
Bourdain.
yeah, exactly. And it kind of like waxed on about his like pirate ship chef life in New York. And that was like, I think it probably inspired a whole generation of like young American cooks to take that life um, path. It was also a little bit of a fire starter for me. So
Did you come across the book before you got to New York or after?
I'm pretty sure I was gifted it sometime before, by the family member. whoever it was like, "Oh, you like cooking? Here is like a generic cooking book," and it turned out to be a really cool sort of inspiration story.
Yeah,
Also, pretty hectic because the life that he lived was bananas, right?
kind of chaotic. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
very interesting man. So with that being said, so you were in New York after graduation. Did you go straight away, or
No, I spent a year actually working in some small Pasadena restaurant for free because I was like
Sedina?
Bistro 45, you know?
Yeah, Pasadena.
Cut your teeth in Pasadena and then go to New York.
Yeah. How long were you in
No,
Pasadena?
and yeah, I mean, it was about a year, I think.
Yeah. All right,
Yeah.
Pasadena. Then you're in New York. I remember going to your restaurant in New York in 2014 because we were just walking around, and I always forget when I was a kid, everything in New York looked big, and I mean, the buildings still do, but I always forget how skinny Manhattan is. So you could kind of like,
Mhm.
I remember, I think you told me it's like, hey, it's only like 2 miles across. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
No. So
Yeah. I mean, even as someone from LA, air quotes,
yeah,
going to New York was, I mean, I spent the first 3 days, without exaggeration, I spent the first 3 days just wandering, walking around because everything was 10 times bigger than I'd ever seen before. So expansive, though it felt, you know. So it's a totally different beast.
when you're how'd you get the what was it? What was it called? The dove, the white dove,
The dovetail.
dovetail. Yeah.
Yeah.
How long were you at Dovetail? Were you there the whole time in New York, or?
So I spent the, oh, I think I was there for like almost 3 years. I spent another year working at a restaurant called Per Se, just like a super fine dining 3 star. And then the first 6 months in New York, I was going to culinary school. And while I was at culinary school, I was actually working at a restaurant called Corton. So I would like go to school from like 8 in the morning to 3 in the afternoon, and then go to Corton from 4 in the afternoon to like 1 in the morning, and then walk my little ass across the Brooklyn Bridge to go home every night. Yeah, so I spent time in a couple different places.
It's like a Netflix show.
Yeah, it's a little bit too on the nose now, you
Yeah, it's like a
know.
very Netflix show. I mean,
Yeah.
but oh, quick transition. So I don't know if you are or wore a Boston Red Sox fan.
Yes.
So being in New York, being a Boston Red Sox fan, was that interesting? Was that dangerous? Was that fun?
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty interesting. I didn't have very many friends who sort of uh, were on the same page as me. And I think, unfortunately, it meant that I didn't go to as many Yankee games as I probably should have,
Mhm.
because there was a little like a reticence to go.
Yeah.
Even though when I look back, I mean, when I was there, the old stadium was still alive, and it was just, I did go to a couple Red Sox Yankee games, which were, I mean, phenomenal. It's the energy there is wild in the Bronx, you know.
Yeah. It's I've been to the old Yankee Stadium where it kind of smelled like an old museum mixed with beer and like piss. And I haven't
Yeah.
been to the new one. I've been by it, but I've never seen a game in it. But somebody told me it's very clean. Like Yankee Stadium clean. I'm like, what is this? I want some like urinal
Yeah.
smell and some beer smell, and that's like the
Yeah, exactly.
of
And like tears of lost opponents, you know, of the
course.
past.
Tears of the
Yeah.
past, or like the Randy Johnson loss, my up
Yes.
here. What's the most, this is a weird question, but what's like the most fondest thing you remember about New York?
That's a good question. I think that, I mean, there's a lot, but I think that okay, here I have two answers. One is sort of the boring answer, and that's just that like in New York you can do anything at any time of the day,
Yep.
and I really miss that now because it's not the same in Copenhagen. I mean, I think if you're hungry at 3 o'clock in the morning, you can still get world class dumplings if that's what you're after. You can also see whatever like music venue and show at any time of the week. Like, I mean, it's just always going, right? And that's maybe more like sort of a cookie cutter answer because I think a lot of people could give that. But I think one of my fondest memories was like, you know, the year before I moved to Copenhagen, I was saving up some money to go travel. What I wanted to do was like go spend 2 months in Copenhagen, work learn, come back to New York, figure out my next steps. So I was trying to save money, but that meant that I was trying to save money on rent. I wasn't making very much money in the kitchen. So um, for the year before I moved to New York, I was living in Chinatown with two of my colleagues, and we lived in a one room apartment where all of us slept on the slept on the floor with no beds, like
Nice.
just kind of like triangulated on the floor.
Very Korean. Yeah.
And it presented, yeah, exactly, a little unconscious heritage going on.
Yes.
Yeah, so that created a lot of good stories, and then we had this like really bizarre Russian landlord, and she did not let us have internet because she thought it affected your brain waves. So we couldn't have internet. And then when we were out of the house, she would like come into the house and like make our beds and take out our trash. And we would come home and be like, someone was here. And I
Very
think
interesting.
like that's sort of one of it like really embodies like the the New York weird and
Yeah.
beauty all in kind of one little experience.
Yeah, when we walked around, I forgot where we went, but when we were walking around Manhattan and New York before I went to Dovetail, I think that's the first time I had a Shake Shack, like actual burger from Shake Shack. So that's 2014. I'm like, wow, it's real. And then now it's on the West Coast, so like the vanity's kind of gone, right?
Yeah.
What sparked Copenhagen? So out of all the European countries, so like I was in Europe for like I think a little shy of 17 months. So but I kind of I went around everywhere. So what sparked Copenhagen and or Denmark in specific rather than like Spain or Switzerland, like homeland?
Yeah. I- Yeah. In 2015 and for the years prior to that, Scandinavia was like on fire in terms of the restaurant industry. Copenhagen had quickly become like the coolest place for a young chef
Mhm.
to cook. All of a sudden, Paris was like number two on the list, and I was pretty drawn to that. I think I was curious again, sort of similar to me moving to New York. I was like, well, I mean, if the coolest stuff is happening in Copenhagen, like why go anywhere else? Like go see what that's about, right? I do remember picking up a book in New York of a restaurant called Relay, and that was in Copenhagen. And I opened it up, and I was like, I have never seen food like this, like ever. This is the coolest shit that I've seen uh, come from a restaurant. And part of that was also like, I need to go see like, what are they even doing over there? So a lot of it was sort of intense curiosity, but also because at that point in time, it's like going to California in 1949. Like everybody went there for a reason, right? You're like trying
Yeah.
to find gold. It's the same thing with Copenhagen at that point.
Do you remember what month you got there? Was it cold season or?
No, I think it was actually like the end of summer, so something like August or maybe even September.
Gotcha. I enjoy vagabonding, so I don't mind living in the streets because I know even if I do, it's not permanent. Like even if I was kicked out and it'd be temporary, but that's like the mindset. So when I travel somewhere, even if it's gonna be bad, I know well I'm not moving. So was there any hesitation from going from New York to Copenhagen at all in the beginning?
I mean, I think I didn't intend to stay, so I
Yeah.
sort of saw it as a temporary 2 or 3 month thing. So I don't think so. I mean, I think I also had the push from my dad to like go live in Europe for a short period at some point.
Mhm.
I think there was a lot of naivete that kind of blocked out any uh, unease.
Yeah.
But
I
hold on, we need to go back to what you just said.
yeah.
You like vagabonding. So what do you mean you were living on the streets?
Yeah.
Is that
So when
a
I well,
figure of speech or?
I wasn't living on the street. I lived out of my car for a while, and then it wasn't too long. It was just because I got out of the army. I was staying with my sister, and then I knew I was gonna start school soon, and I didn't want to commute from where my sister was living to Northridge at the time. So before like looking for an apartment,
Mhm.
I was just kind of like living in my car. And then school didn't start yet, and then I'm not gonna do that in Northridge because it's hot as fuck. So I went to the coast, like to Ventura. I went to Malibu for a while. So I kind of stayed in Leo Carrillo State Beach because I had like a state park pass.
Nice.
Yeah, so I stayed there for like a week. I kind of drove up and down California coast. And then that was more to do with not really like the need of, I think one was I didn't want to commit to an apartment I didn't like. And then two,
Yeah.
I really didn't want to sign because I'm like, well, I'm done with school in like less than a year. So I really didn't want to sign like a year contract. So I'm like, all right. I mean, I drove from Alaska to LA, so let me just drive up and down the coast and see like until school starts, and when school starts, I'll figure it out, right? So, and then part of it
Insane.
was,
How,
yeah.
I mean, did you have any challenges?
No, oh, you know what? I didn't think of was sleeping in your car at night. You need to cover your windows because there's so much light outside. And then I slept in this very dark forest, and I was so scared. Like, I can't see outside. I feel like I'm like a sitting duck in here. Like this is the place to get murdered. And then anytime a car drove by and like slowed down next to me, I'm like, do I panic? Do I wave? Do I? So I didn't get a continuous sleep. So I met other people who were like van lifing. I know it wasn't big at the time, so I met this couple, they're van lifing. They're really cool. And then they're like, yeah, you gotta black out your windows, you gotta get curtains or something. I'm like, oh, like this makes sense. That's why like RVs have tents and stuff. There were those challenges. Shower was okay. I would just go to YMCA's and then shower there. So that wasn't a problem.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, and get a workout. What else was it? Just like sleeping in a car. It's like it's not something you could ever get used to. I
Yeah,
used
I
to
can
live there.
imagine.
And then it worked out, and then I moved into Ocean View in La Cañada, and then lived with a bunch of dudes for 5 years, and then I went to Europe. Yeah, and then I moved a lot. I don't know if you remember, like in high school, in La Crescenta, I think I moved 14 times before I turned 22. So
Yeah,
yeah,
that's crazy.
a lot of times, yeah. And then like in college times, like I slept in your UC Irvine dorm or like your closet, So like sleeping in a car that's mine wasn't as bad as, like sleeping in, someone's closet or stranger's house or stuff like that, right? So yeah, and then and
Yeah,
then
okay, fair
and then
enough.
I guess the upgrade level, the version, the final boss of that was in the army. I had a lot of these missions and tasks where they'd like give me like a backpack for 4 days, and I have to like fly around in Afghanistan for like 2 months. So I would go somewhere, and then sometimes they're like, "Hey, we don't have lodging for you," or it's just like a base with like it's called forward operating base (FOBs). They just don't have enough bunks in some of those places, so I would just sleep on gravel. I'm like, well, I slept on the streets of Afghanistan. How bad could my car be in PCH, right? But I guess there's no serial killers in Afghanistan, so I guess it's a little bit different. So yeah, things like that, like living out of a suitcase was okay. Like obviously, I miss like like having your own place to kind of like put your things and like plug it in and do weird things on the wall and stuff like that. But overall, it was okay. Yeah, good question.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I mean, compared to Afghanistan, I suppose Korea Beach is just fine.
Yeah. Leo Carrillo's a very fine place. Shout out to Leo Carrillo. There was a time I was supposed to fly out in a helicopter, and the helicopter got delayed because of a sandstorm, I think. So me and like three other people from my unit were just kind of like nestled on this like concrete wall, and I napped there, and it was one of the best naps I've ever had in my life. I remember that, just like sleeping in gravel, like warm Afghanistan
Yeah.
gravel. Yeah, that was one of the best naps I've ever had.
It's all about perspective, I bet,
Yeah, and then once you experience it, especially when you're like, oh, it's not as bad as I thought it would be. After that, and then and then there's such a big like a push, like a motivational factor to it, some metaphysical
Mhm.
motivation fact. So that's really nice. Back to you. Where are you? Are you in a restaurant now, or are you doing your own thing?
No, I started my own business 2 years ago.
Okay, nice. Tell us about that.
Uh,
Is it illegal?
how
Can we
do
talk
we
about
go
it? Can we
about
talk about it?
it? So, unfortunately, it is. We've made sure that it's quite legal.
Good,
Uh,
good.
no, so I have a startup that makes an alternative chocolate.
Oh,
So essentially, chocolate without using cacao or cacao beans. as an ingredient for large scale industries. So I think the background context is that the chocolate industry has been on fire for quite some time.
Yeah.
I mean, prices have skyrocketed over the last year. There's a long-term supply issue because of changing weather patterns in northern West Africa, where we get most of our world's chocolate. So chocolate companies are in the shit essentially, and we and maybe 5 or 6 other companies worldwide are trying to provide a solution in a more sustainable way. Sort of, this is like a planetary sustainability move, right? So we're using, instead of using cacao or cacao butter, we're using upcycled ingredients. So like the leftovers from beer production. Short story is that we're an early stage startup, but we just closed a funding round of €1 million. Thanks. Yeah, it was.
There used to be a way to clap on Zoom. There we go. There we go. There we go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah, so it's very real, and it's pretty cool. It's a little bit sort of I find it kind of funny to explain, but that's what I've been focusing on for the last couple of years.
Did that startup idea kind of come about while you're in the kitchen, or was it something like during a conversation, or you saw the opportunity because of the need of the shortage of chocolate, I suppose?
Yeah, actually, I think it was just because at that restaurant that I had been working at for so long, we focused on sustainability pretty heavily.
Yeah.
So we often used sort of waste products to create new ingredients. Um, and as we looked at chocolate, I think as you learn more about chocolate, we realized chocolate is fucked on multiple different levels. So we went out and we did the very sort of startup thing of like doing interviews with chefs and bakers, and then also like larger scale industry people from chocolate and food manufacturing. And lo and behold, there was like a deep rooted issue that chocolate was becoming insanely expensive because the supply was dying. And this all comes back to the fact that, the areas that we grow most of the world's cacao is just being completely destroyed by drought and the inability to grow at normal levels, right? So,
One of our mutual friends, I'm not gonna say his name because I feel like he's kind of doing this on the side. He is one of best friends of your former housemate. He he sells weather data to big companies. And when he told me that, I'm like, "Did you quit your job to do this?" He's like, "No, no, no, no. I do it on the side because he does Excel anyway for his work, so he knows how to analyze and gather all these weather data and just kind of put it onto a folder and give it to these companies." So he said all these companies are buying up weather data because of things like droughts and like weather changes, right? So what people talk about in like the real politics of climate change isn't real, environment, global warming, blah blah blah. But obviously something is happening because all these companies are buying up like all sorts of historical weather data because things are happening.
crazy.
Yeah, things are happening. So
I mean, that's pretty cool. Also, like, what a hustle.
yeah, what a side. I mean, when someone used to teach me, like me and Dan Drugan used to go to these like Excel contests and stuff, and we're like, oh, we could win this easily, and it's difficult. And then in high school, when I was learning Excel, I'm like, oh, how is this going to help me in real life? I feel like it's never going to go away. I feel like it's in more than ever now. So I feel like that's kind of crazy. I had questions about. I've always been fascinated with cooking culture. Maybe it's an Anthony Bourdain thing, but there's a cliche of people who work in the kitchen that it's stressful, it's high stress, it's high strung. Uh, First question is, do you think what's the big culture difference between kitchens between Copenhagen and New York? And then second question would be, I'll ask again, which is, which do you prefer, culture wise?
I mean, I think culture-wise, there's not much that comes close to working in New York in terms of stress level and intensity.
Yeah,
I think that Copenhagen has a lot of that, there are like also where I worked, and then of course there's Noma here, the world's best restaurant or whatever. These places are also like insanely stressful. The intensity is incredibly high. The quality expectation is through the roof, and you still work 14, 15 hours a day, you know. I think in Copenhagen it's a little bit rounded out by the fact that there are so many social benefits to make sure that you can balance yourself still. So you get 5 weeks mandatory holiday every year, you know, that's government provided and it's paid.
Oh man.
Um,
So-
yeah, and I think it it kind of softens it, right? And I think generally kitchen culture has like gotten a little bit less toxic than it used to be, especially in Copenhagen.
Yeah.
I think it's probably for the better. New York was perfect for me when I was like 23, when you just have endless
Yeah.
energy and you can like, you know, drink beers and smoke heaters every day after service. And but I think when I transitioned to Copenhagen, it's a bit more of a, it allows for a more long-term perspective. So I think today I would prefer Copenhagen kitchen culture, but
Mhm.
nothing replaces like young, high octane sort of New York kitchen life.
Do you
I mean,
think
I've seen some wild shit in New York kitchens.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure. I'm sure it's not a quiet place back there. I find that fascinating too
No.
because when you go to fine dining, especially in cities like New York, so as soon as you walk in, the cliche like somebody greets you, someone and like grabs your coat, whatever, and they take you to these like very nice tables that's like stainless, right? And then you probably go into the kitchen and it's probably chaotic. There's open fire, open flames. I'm sure there's yelling. I'm sure there's people yelling at each other. I'm sure. But do you think it's the time crunch to make something that's perfect? Because it's not like, like I make pot roast, but I'm making it for like me. So I don't have any rush. I'm not pressured. It's like, but do you think it kind of,
Yeah, I mean,
oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
I think a lot of it is built into you have X amount of hours to produce a lot of high quality things. And then during service, you have to put all of those things together in a time crunch. And then also like you have to do it with other people sort of in lockstep with you as well, right?
Yeah.
So there's and I think this is also what drew me to kitchens in the first place, is that there was like a latent competitive thing that lies in kitchens, and it's not unlike sports. Like it is very similar to sort of
Yeah.
being on a sports team, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of sports, are you not watching the NFL or?
I mean, it's hard for me to watch because I actually don't have a package, but I'm pretty religiously following live scores, and then I'll watch highlights like when they come out on YouTube.
Yeah.
And I still very much follow the Bengals. I'm just like quite disheartened at how, you know, Joe Burrow and um,
Jamar Chase.
that they can. He's playing so well, and they just can't really get over the hill. You know, it's just it's really sad.
2024
And
Cincinnati.
Jamar Chase is having like a wild season, right?
Yeah, he's gonna win the Triple Crown. He's the
Yeah.
if he wins the Triple Crown, he'll be I think the fifth receiver to win the Triple Crown since the Super Bowl era, which is bonkers because there's so many good receivers. But the Bengals to
Yeah.
me, yeah, go ahead, go ahead.
No, I mean I also Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow, they're also quite likable for me
Yeah,
as athletes. And like, you know, ever since they just let that Super Bowl slip out of their grasp, it has been sort of like concurrent seasons of just not playing up to probably what they expect out of themselves, you know?
agree. There's a I don't know, it's like a perfect I want to show like teenagers this is what teamwork does. You could have these two players doing everything perfect. And then if the defense can't hold the other team below 21, that's you guys, you'll lose. And then people will say you're wasting talent. So don't waste each other's talent and let that burn and drive on forward. But I mean, telling teens something that's like gold mines is like a whole nother thing. I think Bengals deserves like a whole nother episode, but I wanted to talk to you about because I think you were a chef at a Michelin restaurant, correct?
Yes, at a couple.
Yeah. So how does they send out Michelin people, right? They like eat, don't they like come eat?
Yes.
So how does that work? Do you know they're coming or?
I think that like generally you don't know that they're coming. They always book under pseudonyms, or they book for four people and only one person shows up. I think that like there's always sort of whispers between restaurants, like, oh, we just had what we think is a Michelin inspector. Maybe they're coming by, look for a person with like, that looks like the guy from Ratatouille. So I think there's a lot of sort of speculation, but it's pretty hard to nail down. Yeah.
Oh, but that does happen. So a Ratatouille food inspector comes and like dines and like checks out services and food and everything, huh?
100%. 100%. And like you can kind of like often when they are like single diners, you can kind of tell. I mean, they don't have like a notebook on the table, but there's always speculation. And then sometimes, you just kind of have to assume that it's a possibility. So I think there have been many people who went out to eat by themselves and got really amazing attention and service because someone thought they were a Michelin inspector, which is a kind of a nice flip of the coin.
I'm gonna keep that in mind. I'm gonna carry my black turtleneck around with my little journalist notebook. Be like, just take notes after each bite, and then just point.
100%. And like single diners, people who go eat by themselves, often in like in good restaurants, I think single diners are treated pretty highly because for someone to go eat by themselves, that's already a pretty big leap.
Yep.
And then you need to sort of ensure that because they don't have companions, you make sure that they have a really good experience. So I think that's also something that we always did in Amass and Per Se and Dovetail, that is pretty cool because as a single diner you can kind of get forgotten sometimes, but those are the ones that you really need to sort of.
You're putting music into my heart because when I was on the road, I'm so used to eating by myself, but there were days I was super lonely or blue. Like I'm pretty social, so I can make friends pretty easily. But there were times I'm like I feel super lonely, super blue, and those are the days they sit me where like I could see everybody in the restaurant, and then everyone's either a family, a very like close family, like taking pictures, or couples. And like I have the whole like I'm like, why'd you sit me here? So I always think, should I reverse my chair and just face the wall? And I'm like, oh, that's even more depressing. So, but that's happened to me a couple times, and it's okay. Like I'm used to it now. But like I always think about people who are like afraid to go like socialize, and I never had that issue, so it's not a problem. But there were days like I'm sitting alone and eating. I'm like, fuck, man, just wanna, just wanna. This is terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
What do you
mean,
think about that?
I like I think you're probably more sociable than I am. So I think like I have eaten by myself quite a bit in the past. I mean, I kind of enjoy the experience, but I'm not the best like making friends with random people. So then you combine those two things, and it's like, yeah, you're on your own.
Yeah, it's a. I used to have a problem going to the movies by myself. Then I got over that, and then I now I find it very convenient. But eating by myself is still, unless I'm eating at home, it is still kind of rough. Or like I'm like on the run and I have to eat something really quick or something like that. But eating alone, knowing that you're gonna eat alone for a dinner you planned by yourself, and then when you go there, that's that's a challenge. But once you get over that, I feel like you can conquer anything.
100%. Yeah, that was my whole point. That I think like most good restaurants recognize that that's a leap that someone has made.
Yeah.
Thus, make sure that they have a good time.
What regarding your startup, is there like website and things people could check out right now, or is it still on the funding stages and you're trying to make the pre-production work?
Yes, there is a website. We have been active for 2 years. I mean, it is a pre-seed funding
Put it up
stage,
right here.
but
We'll put it up right here. is where the website will go.
Yeah, just. But we're there, and I think we're a little bit farther than most pre-seed companies would be at this stage. Still only 2 full-time people, but we've been selling not chocolate, mocklet for just under 2 years now.
Do you call it mocklet?
We call it thick. No, we call it thick, like THIC.
I call my
It's
dog
short
that.
for this isn't chocolate.
I call this thing that
Yeah,
because he's thick. And then
yeah,
my
he is.
my cohorts. Some people call me thick in the army, but what does my co-host call me? He calls me dense. Like my body's dense, and that makes it sound like I'm dumb. So I just take it and hope he's listening to this. But yeah, he got married and then he moved, so he's dealing with, and then he's doing like construction by himself. So
Okay.
he's never free.
Yeah,
So
that's wild.
yeah, so he's doing that. He'll come back eventually, but it gives me a chance to catch up with friends and stuff. So I do these one-on-one interviews, and it's fun. There's the whole no show. When's the last time you were in America?
Last year, shit, in the summer at some point. No, sometime early spring.
Did you come to LA or when did you?
Went to go. Yes, I was in LA, but also my current or my fiance, she is actually from Northern California. We met here in Copenhagen.
Yeah,
So it was kind of like a family trip, you know? So we went up and down and it was pretty cool. It
nice,
was
nice.
amazing.
All right, congratulations on the engagement. Does she work in food?
She used to, but now she's actually sort of the studio manager for a dance studio here in Copenhagen. So kind of transitioning outside of the food industry.
When I was traveling, I was in Bratislava, and I met this very nice girl. She was very nice. She's like, "Oh, my sister's in LA. You should meet up with her." I'm like, "Oh, Jesus." And then she said there's a lake. They have a beach house or a lake house in Copenhagen, and I'm like, "Oh, why am I not going to Denmark? I Denmark." So, she has a very Nordic, Scandinavian last name with like with the in it. I find that fascinating.
Yes.
Yeah. How are you with the language? Because it's a pretty rough language, but do you just say like the greetings and then just speak in English or?
I mean, I think it depends. You know, I'm fine to understand a lot. I think my speaking ability is not really where it should be, but I think it depends on the generation that you talk to because the older generation of Danes, of course, maybe that's not great.
Yeah.
So you kind of have to like, you know, cobble through conversations. But with the younger generation, they're like their English is perfect.
Yeah.
So
It's
I
better than
think it's
mine.
actually, and then yeah, I think that's what the joke is, you know. But they also like they love speaking English, so they tend to switch to English pretty quickly when they know I'm an outsider, you know.
So when you're getting like a cup of coffee in the morning, would you just speak in English or just minimal conversation?
No, I mean maybe that's like in Danish, but most of the time I'll speak in English when I'm out.
Nice. Do you feel very like Nordic and Thor-ish? That's why I feel like Danish might be. Because I went to Norway and I thought it was very nice, but everything was pricey. Like I got a sandwich that I felt like cost way too much for a sandwich.
I mean, Norway is no joke. I mean, even for Danes, Norway is expensive, and everything in Copenhagen is fucking expensive. So
Yeah.
that's definitely something to get used to. But I mean, there's a couple things that will make you feel Nordic, you know, and one of them is like something I did pretty early on, which is like winter bathing, and
Ooh.
then using a sauna,
Yeah. Ooh.
and
Yeah.
like you know when the first time you go into like slightly slushy ice ocean water, it's like it wakes something else up in you, you know. But I guess combo with the sauna, I think it works pretty well.
I went to Oslo, Norway, and then it was in August, I think. So it wasn't too cold, but it rained like half the time I was there. But I swam across my hotel to like the sauna that was like off the pier. So I'm like, can I swim across this? Like, I'm not gonna get a ticket or anything. They're like, yeah, go. So I swim. I get there. So the water's cold enough. So when I get there, I'm like, well, I'm gonna be warm, right? So I get there, I don't have a towel, and it's locked, like it's closed. So as soon as I get there, it's locked. I'm like, so I jump back in the water and I like kind of like like frog swim back. So that's my little Oslo sauna story that I did not get to go to a sauna, but I always wanted to go to Copenhagen. So when I do go, I'll let you know. Um, what's one thing you really like about Copenhagen?
I think that you spend 6 to 7 months like kind of in the dark during winter and the early part of spring. That means that when spring and summer come, people are mental. I mean, they have been sitting, it gets dark here at like 3:30 in the afternoon. The sun doesn't come up until maybe like 8 o'clock in the morning, if the sun comes. So you spend a lot of dark months, and then you get to the summer where you have like extended lights until 9:45 at night, and people just go crazy because it's like a release of sort of endorphins and serotonin that all comes after being in the dark so long, that it really makes spring and summer, like it's really hard to beat spring and summer here. Just people are in the most amazing moods. I think you see people standing in the middle of the street just staring at the sun to like soak vitamin D up to their sort of limit. But then like everything is surrounded by water, so you just generally like people sitting on the water and drinking, and I think the vibe is really good during that time. I
Nice.
think that's also what hooked me, you know. I came here at the end of summer and I just looked around thinking like, wow, this is crazy. This is so nice. And then 2 months later it was like, fuck, it's so dark and cold and rainy.
I
This is this is
when I
how they get you, you know?
when I went to Alaska, mine was reversed. So I got to Alaska in October. So like soon as I landed, snow landed, and snow doesn't really go away in Alaska, and then it's dark all the time. And then I went to Afghanistan and came back. And then the first summer in Alaska was probably the most enjoyable summer. Not only did I get back from war, I'm sure that helped, but the sun never really sets in Alaska. It kind of dips, but
Yeah.
not really. And then we're out all the time. I had a girlfriend at the time, and she was pretty cool. She was a local, so she would show me all these like secret cool places outdoors. Because I always thought if I met her in the winter, I'm like, oh, we're not going anywhere. Like we're just gonna be stuck somewhere. So I thought like the timing was perfect. And then everybody's outside, everybody's kayaking, everybody's hunting, everybody's just out in the sun. So and then in LA, it's very underappreciated because I mean it's just sunny every day. So nobody really they don't know real weather here. It's psychos. But
Yeah.
um
Yeah.
I know
I just actually wanted to touch back on something. I mean,
yeah,
your swimming story in Norway.
yeah.
Did your time in the army make you like a world-class swimmer?
No, Army didn't really make us swim. And then funny you asked that because my unit, one of our sergeants said, "Oh, we don't have to run today. Let's go swim because it's cold outside and the pool's heated." We're like, "Okay," but half of my team at that time didn't know how to properly swim. So, did Army make me a better swimmer? Probably not. But Army kind of, we don't really swim for the Army, but it did make me better about like death, and then I used to dive, so like death and like how to gauge distance with my eyes and stuff like that, but
Yeah.
not the swimming. And one of my friend I told you, my friend I told you before we started, he
Yeah.
I hope he's listening to this. He's a terrible swimmer. Like if we were on a ferry to go to like Catalina and that thing sunk, oh my lord, I don't even think he'll do well with like a life vest. So, are you swimming a lot
Yeah, I mean,
there?
I think I mean, I try during the spring and the summer. I mean, you go almost every day. It's quite easy because you can like I mean, because we cycle everywhere. We cycle
Yeah.
to work, and you know, so you can just kind of carry your swim stuff with you and take a quick dip after or before work. During the winter and fall, it's a little bit different. I think you have to be it's like you're either a winter bather or you're not.
Yeah.
And I'm not fully there yet, but there are some people who go, 6 o'clock in the morning to take a cold dip and then go to work. But that's pretty hardcore still for my Californian soul.
Okay, you'll get there. You'll get there. I mean, you're a
Yeah.
chef. You could probably grab like skillets with your hands. I can't do that. I could never do that. I need mittens. I need oven mittens.
Oh man, I mean, so many years out of the kitchen, I've got little baby fingers now, you know?
Yeah. Oh, so I haven't played guitar in a couple months, and I played at my friend's house. We had this like huge jam session, and then, and then I don't even know what happened, but I'm bleeding.
Yeah.
I have a blood vessel popped inside, and I didn't even know that happened until like 3 days later. It's like, what the hell? So
Yeah, it goes pretty quickly, you know?
yeah, your fingers your body tends to soften up when you're not like working out or putting it into the
Yeah.
fire. Literally. I have some rapid fire questions. I know there's a slight delay, but we'll try to do our best. Just one word or a couple words. Pretty easy questions. Whatever comes to your mind. All right. So, favorite number,
5.
favorite color,
Purple.
favorite place to visit,
Paris?
last movie or TV show you watched.
I mean, I watched a couple episodes of New Girl the other day, but that maybe
Nice.
wasn't the real one.
It's not new. Would you rather know when you die or how you die?
How?
Okay. Would you rather share your search history with the world or a credit card statement?
Um, Credit card statement.
Oh, interesting. Do you think men have women figured out better or women have men figured out better?
Oh man, I think everybody's confused.
That's a good answer. A place you're very fond of.
Um, I mean, the California coast,
Okay.
I think.
Good answer. Solid. If you could go anywhere, time, money, vacation, logistics wasn't an issue, where would you go now?
I would go to Japan.
Oh, good. We should follow up on that. What's your must travel essentials?
Nothing. I'm a light traveler, so like I don't need much. A hoodie, I think, is probably super important.
You need to talk to my mom. She brings like 2 suitcases to every trip. Why the fuck, dude? Speaking of traveling, would you rather time travel to the future or go back in time?
Absolutely back in time.
Back in time. Okay. Speaking of the past, if you could bring back one thing from your past, what would it be? And it could be physical, metaphysical, emotional, or mental state.
Um, I think focus on an instrument. I used to play a lot of music, and I don't
Yeah,
do
yeah.
that anymore. So
At all?
I wish I could bring that back.
You're not doing it at all?
I just don't have any time.
I always tell
I
people
have
10
like a
minutes, 10
beautiful
minutes,
saxophone in the closet
10
here,
minutes.
man.
I always say 10 minutes a day, right? 10 minutes a day, figure it out. Like do it while you're pooping or something. I'm like, just I was teaching this.
I think you're totally right.
Yeah, it's just 10 minutes a day because I always try to like pack it in. I'm like, I'm gonna play for an hour. And then it's never an hour, it's always shorter or longer. And then like now my time's a little bit more flexible. But sometimes like Jesse Cantley, like him and I have been trying to play guitar for a while, and he's been going to Japan a lot too. I don't know if you remember him, but he's Japanese. So
Yeah.
he's been trying to go to Japan, and he's been going to Japan. I feel like a lot of people have been going to Japan. Last question, do you have any questions for me?
Yes. What was the most interesting part of your Europe stay?
I think the biggest, not to sound philosophical, I think most people have similar issues, just different settings. And I think that's why
Yeah.
people are drawn to stories and movies because it's, like the conflict of a movie or something. It's like 7 things kind of like repeated, right? Just like in different settings, different characters. And I feel like universally, like Copenhagen, Norway, Oslo, Los Angeles, everybody has similar issues. They're just like tweaked to that setting and characters. So
Mm.
obviously I don't have freezing snow issues, but obviously there's, wildfires here. And I don't really have controls over that, right? I could only do my best. And even over there when it gets too cold, people could only do so much to stop that, right? I mean, you bundle up, you stay warm, but you wear gloves, you wear scarves, but like everybody has like social issues, personal issues, like your circle issues, work issues. But I feel like
But
the
was there something that you learned on a personal level? Or was there like a specific thing that sort of makes you think about that?
yeah, so I'm actually writing a book about it. So which is it's getting things done, it's much easier when there's like a deadline. Getting things done is much easier when there's like a payout. But if it's something you're working on that may turn out, you got to treat it kind of like it's going to be a payout, or it's going to be bigger than a payout. Like, obviously you're in a startup, so I don't have to preach to the choir. But one thing, like, I was in grad school remotely. Half of the time I was traveling, and then I thought, I'm getting schoolwork done, so I might as well write a book and a screenplay. And I would hit so many like walls, but I would just make excuses to not write. Like, I would write at a coffee shop, and I see a pretty girl, and I'm like, well, there goes my evening, right? So, um, and then I guess another thing is how to utilize what I'm good at and work on things I'm bad at. Yeah, that's one thing I learned.
Yeah.
Yeah, being on the road. And then loneliness is temporary. I also figured that out.
Yeah, this too shall pass, you know?
Yeah. Though, like, eating by yourself is tough, but you're in Europe, so the train system there is pretty good, right? So I'm on a train station with like my 2 suitcases and a backpack, but it's hard to kind of get into a train with 2 suitcases. And there were times like people would help me get it up or something, and I'm strong enough to do it. But just like luggaging things by yourself, like traveling from one city to another, and like I'm doing it because I want to do it, but the whole notion of like moving by yourself, work, like living by yourself. Like, I met very great people, but I sounded like Donald Trump right there. Many, many great people, many great. And then people are very
Yeah, but I
helpful.
think, like, yeah.
Yeah. But go
I
ahead.
mean, I think like um moving around and traveling by yourself, that's something that not everybody does. And I think it also requires a little bit of imagination. Also, of course, a level of independence.
Yeah.
So I think there's also like people from the other perspective watching you amble onto this train with a bunch of shit, and it's like, where's this guy going? And like, where is he going by himself? I think it's also like pretty interesting to think about like maybe the other people who maybe haven't experienced that and are seeing it, because I think about that all the time, you know.
Oh, that's a good thing. Like, I'm being perspective of the others, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, and it was great. And then when I was on the road, a lot of my friends who wanted to travel but couldn't travel because they got married or they have kids or they have work, a lot of them were almost like rooting for my success. It was kind of like I was on a reality TV show for them. They're like, "Where are you going next?" I'm like, "I don't know." They're like, "Well, why do you not know? You should go." I'm like, "Don't yell at me." And it's one of those was
Yeah.
a fond name you might remember from the past, named Chris Lyons, who I will see tonight, and we will go to a LA Kings game. And I think he owes me food, so I'm gonna cash in. With that being said, startup's going well. Do you have anything else? Like, I'll post a website here or here. But anything else you've been working on?
Um, I mean, recently in my work life, that's been the main focus. I think my partner and I recently bought an apartment, so
Ooh.
we're sort of building that out. Um, I wouldn't really call it construction, but you know, small bits here and there. So that's been a pretty big focus. Um, Christmas time is coming up, which means like in Denmark, there's something called the Julefrokost season, which is like Christmas lunch season. And so, traditionally everybody has a couple Julefrokosts lined up. Probably have one with your family, probably have one with your friends, and then you definitely have one like that your work takes you out to, which means that from now until probably the first or second week of January, you will just constantly see incredibly drunk people in the middle of the day who have gone out to go eat very traditional Danish food and drink loads of beer and drink snaps. And it's a whole culture, and it's like now every weekend from now on. Yeah, so we have a couple of those lined up, and it's always a pretty cool aspect of Christmas time, especially if you're maybe not like the most Christmassy of fellows. Then it's great to have an excuse to sort of like get together with friends or work people and just have a good time.
I have two things. One, most of my podcast, if you checked it out, is aired like 2 months after it's recorded. So sometimes we talk about things like I think some of them we kind of fast forward. Like I have a friend who's deaf, so I wanted to do this like deaf awareness thing because Deaf Awareness Month is September. So I wanted to get released in September. So some episodes cut in line, like yours. I'm gonna cut in line because I like it, and then, uh, but it's usually 2 months back. But so that's one thing, and the second thing, completely different topic, which is this year for Christmas, I want to go to a city that's very Christmassy, meaning like New York, maybe not Chicago, but somewhere with snow, and maybe Copenhagen, maybe London, somewhere where I could feel like Christmas spirit, because I don't know, I feel like the Christmas spirit's been burned out of me long time ago because I had a couple bad Christmases when I was a kid, but and then like LA Christmas doesn't really seem like Christmas.
Yeah, I think it's tough. I think Copenhagen does Christmas pretty well. Again, I mean, this is now like opinion, but Scandinavian style is kind of like understated, right?
Yeah.
So it's not like obnoxious like colored lights, but everything is kind of like understated beautiful white lights, you
Yeah.
know. So I think it does it pretty well, because I think a little bit of the Christmas fuckery that I can't get with is when like everything is just a little bit too intense and
Yeah.
obnoxious, right? But I think Copenhagen does Christmas well. I'm sure like London and Paris are pretty dang cool Christmas. Or you could go to like the Caribbean, and have like a Jamaican Christmas. Isn't that like a thing?
Yeah,
It's
Jamaican
probably
Christmas
like
is a
quite
thing,
fun.
definitely. Jamaican Christmas is definitely a thing. The person who does the voice intro to this podcast, there's a woman. She's a New Zealander. She's a Kiwi. She is currently in Jamaica now. Yeah, she's in Jamaica now. I think she's flying back to America in 4 days, but she lives in Wellington, New Zealand. So
Okay.
yeah, but uh,
Yeah.
shout outs to her. If she's listening. That's been fun. I'm gonna stop recording so we could catch up on personal stuff. But do you have any other questions or anything you want to ask me?
What's your favorite thing that you have on your shelf behind you?
Here on the
Yeah.
long shelf, it's my grandpa's medal. There's a story about that. Here I'm trying to sell those bobbleheads, but I heard people are getting robbed on Facebook Marketplaces. I'm like, what is happening? And then I don't know, maybe my camera. I do like that Day of the Dead Dodger bobblehead. Yeah, my grandpa's
Yeah,
medal
that's pretty
probably.
cool.
Yeah, and then this is when I was working at Disney. They print out posters and like props, and I said, "Can you print out a picture of my dog on a 4x3 poster?" And they're like, "Yeah, what? How thick do you want it?" I'm like, "How thick can I get?" Like, you should just get this. So there's one. That's where it is.
Is it a very thick picture?
It's not thick, but it's very stable. Like you could use it as like a coffee table probably for like 2 years. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You should definitely do that. Maybe like pour epoxy over it so you can like extend the shelf life,
Yeah, I
and
actually
then
made
have
a
that as a
coffee
coffee
table out of
table,
my
you know?
degrees. Out of my degrees, I made a coffee table and I put a glass over it, and then my printer sits on top of it
No
now. But
way.
yeah, so because it was the
Your
symbolism of
printer sits on top of it.
yeah, my printer sits on top of it, but it was a symbolism of having a useful degree. So it's being useful by being a table. Um, yeah, but that's fun. Please check out
Yeah.
Max's. Oh, go ahead, go ahead, go ahead. Yeah,
No, no, I was gonna make a stupid joke.
make a stupid joke. Make a stupid joke.
No, I mean, I was gonna say, like, if your printer ever runs out of paper, you have paper at the ready, just underneath the glass, you know?
Yeah, I think about it all the time. Like, where am I gonna use like which respective degree for something that's like taking notes or something? And then do I have a priority? Like, is it like highest to lowest, or colorful to least colorful, or whatever it may be? Where where
Power
is
ranking.
where is your degree right now? Do you have it in Europe with you?
No, I don't. I think it must be back home at my dad's. I actually had like a minor freak out maybe 6 months ago or no, a year ago, because we were applying for some Danish innovation fund, and they wanted all of our educational degrees or a picture of. And then I was like, holy fuck, did I ever graduate? Did I actually get a degree? I did, but it definitely took a second. I was like, oh man,
I
what was
know
I doing for 4 years?
I have enough UC Irvine friends where I could probably forge one for you, but I'll probably make a typo in your last name or something, like add an extra N or add an extra M or add.
Yeah,
They're like, oh,
I
it's
mean, it's
spelled.
good to know that you have that.
School. School type made a typo. My name's so short. I feel like I could put it on like a Harvard degree if I wanted to.
Yeah, you should.
Yeah, I always tell people like I would never fake a degree for myself because I don't want to live because it's a lie you got to keep living with. But I'm like, if you fake a degree, you better not meet an alumni of that school because they will ask you questions that you will not. You'll be like, I don't know. I just went to class. Like, what are you gonna say?
Yeah, but I mean, if you fake a degree, you can sort of have all your other degrees, and just ask people, okay, so which of these is not real,
Okay, yeah,
so
that's good. Yeah,
people
that's good.
can sort of extrapolate for themselves.
It's a good word. It's a good word. I'm gonna use it in my writing today. All right. Hey everybody, thanks for listening. Check out Max's website. It's Endless Food Co. Endlesscph.com. And you don't have social media anymore, huh?
I mean, I do have an Instagram. I'm pretty slow on it, but I do have one.
Gotcha. And then follow Endless Food Company. I'll put it right here. Endless Food Company on Instagram, or link in my description usually. But thanks for listening, everybody, and have a good one.
You're listening to Waste Your Time Wisely podcast.